Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We are very excited. We have about 300 of you on the call right now, and that number keeps growing. We have some new matrix enhancements that just went live yesterday, and really the purpose of this webinar is to walk through those, to share with you some of the things that you might see changed or enhanced within Matrix, and then discuss how that might benefit you. How can you use those enhancements to better serve your customers? So we'll do, along with walking through the 9 major enhancements, when possible, we'll try to provide a little bit of a backstory on the different features in here that maybe have been changed, why you might use that feature, a few reminders about how that feature can be better used. So hopefully you'll get a good overview over the next 30 minutes. So a few items. First of all, if you cannot hear me, well, hopefully you can hear me, but here are the instructions on the screen on how to connect to audio. You're going to use the Communicate tab on the top of the screen in WebEx. And if by any chance over the webinar, if your audio connection changes, you can always use the call-in number as well. So that's number 1. Number 2, if you have questions throughout the webinar, please use the Q&A panel, not the chat panel, because there are so many of you. We have a few of us who are going to be monitoring questions, but it's a little easier for us to all monitor the Q&A panel and to make sure that we answer your questions. If on the off chance we miss your question, we do apologize. We have some email addresses up here. You are welcome to shoot us an email. We will then answer that for you, but hopefully we will get all of your questions answered before we log off of here. So with that being said, let's dive in to some of the recent changes to Matrix. So one of the first enhancements is the ability to reorder the results in your searches. This has been something that has been requested for quite a while now, and we are very excited that it is finally here. So let's talk a little bit about this. Let's talk about how this works and when might or might not this be used. So first of all, when I run a search, I'm going to go ahead and pull up Matrix. I'm going to go to one of my recent searches. When I run a search, I will now see, let me come back into here. I will now see drag and drop handles. Within my results. If I do not see that, it means that I have too many results on the page. So in this case, I ran a search that has 123 results. I'm only showing 25 on this page. So in that case, I either have to further refine my search, and now I have those, or I can change the amount of results displayed per page. So I have 24 matches in the search, 24 results in the search. If I was only showing 10 of those results on this display, I cannot reorder them. If I were to up this display, or once again further refine my search, now I can. I can drag and drop. I can change the order that these results are being displayed. Now there are a few limitations in doing this. So when I do reorder these results, if I were to send an email out, if I were to select properties and do a direct email, it will now go out in the new order. So if I were to select all these and do a direct email, and whatever my new order is, that's how they will go out to my customer in the email. If I were to print these listings, they will print in the new order. However, for both the CMA and driving directions, they might not be in that new order. Driving directions will always be in what's called a smart order. The properties will always be listed with the shortest distance in between these. So my new reordered search will not impact how driving directions are displayed. Additionally, with CMAs, when you launch a CMA, when you search for comparable properties in Matrix, so I'm going to search for all the active, sold, pending, expired properties similar to a subject property, launch those into a CMA wizard. My CMA comps are going to be displayed by status, all the active listings grouped together, all the solds, the expireds, so the new order will not go into CMA. However, when I launch a CMA, under the comparable properties tab, then my new order my results will be able to be reordered in there. So just a few things about that. You can reorder search results now. If you do not see these drag and drop handles, it either means that you need to up your display. I only have 10 listings displayed here. I have 24 results. I have to up my results per page, or I have to narrow my criteria. This works for emails, for printing. It does not work for driving directions. It does not automatically work in the CMA wizard, but you will also have drag and drop handles under the comparable properties tab in the CMA wizard. Now, if I were to click on any of these columns, if I clicked on subdivision name, if I clicked on city, if I clicked on year built, it would then search these results by that column. I just clicked on year built, and now I'm sorting by year built in ascending order. That overrides my drag and drop order. So please keep that in mind as well. So that's our first change. Our first change has to do with reordering search results. This also does not work in the mobile version of Matrix. It only works in the desktop version. But it is an exciting change because it does allow you to decide the order in which you email listings and in which you print listings. So now let's look at change number 2. So change number 2 has to do with the speed bar. On the top of the screen in Matrix, you have a white bar. It's called the speed bar. And this bar allows you to enter MLS IDs, and it also allows you to enter addresses. Now, if you do an address, only type in the street number and street name. But in this example, let's pretend that a customer went onto a consumer site, one of the Zillows, the Realtor.coms, the Homes.coms of the world, and they found some properties, and they actually sent you ID numbers for properties that they want you to pull up in the MLS and see if you get more information on them. So now, if you were to enter multiple MLS IDs in the speed bar, the results will show up in whichever order you entered the IDs. So that is another enhancement. In the past, it would come up in ascending price order, but now it's going to be in whichever order you entered the MLS IDs. So another variation on the change of being able to reorder your searches. Let's see, enhancement number 3. This has to do with carts. I want to spend a little more time on this enhancement because this actually does have a lot of uses. And as we go out in the field, as my team, as the training team of the MLS, as we go and we try to train on different MLS tools, there is some confusion on when might you use a cart to save a listing. So one thing that I want to clarify, underneath your search results, whenever you run a search, you have 4 different menus. You have an actions menu with items such as sending an email, a direct one-time email, printing, launching driving directions to and between listings, launching comparable properties. If you run a search for comparable properties versus just active listings, launching those into a CMA wizard. You then have a refine menu where you're able to refine your search to show whatever properties you select, discard listings you select. But then you have the last 2 menus, save and carts. Under the save menu, I can actually save a search. I can save this search, City of Clearwater, this price range, or whatever my criteria was, to run in the future. I can also save a search as an auto email, where I not only save a search, but I also email out the results. But here's the thing. Under the save menu, either a new save search or a saving search as an auto email, you are not saving these listings. You are saving this criteria up here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to refine this criteria. Every time, so now I only have 5 results. So now I'm looking at single-family homes in Clearwater between $200,000 and $210,000, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Every time I run the search, the results are going to be different. These 5 listings might not be here. Tomorrow, some of these might be expired. Some of these might be pending. Maybe the price dropped. Right now I'm looking between the price ranges of $200,000 and $210,000. What if one of these properties drops to $190,000? That's going to drop off of the search. So when you save a search, the results are going to be different every time. But what if for whatever reason I really want to track some of these properties? Maybe this property on San Mateo Street. I can actually save the listing in a cart. A cart is like an electronic file folder. You are simply saving a listing for future use, for you to view in the future in whatever status is in and whatever price is in, even if it no longer falls within the criteria of this search. So in the past with carts, you had one cart for every contact in Matrix. But now you can actually create multiple carts for any contact, or even general carts not tied to a contact. So maybe I want to save this property for my own personal use. I can create a new cart. And maybe I'm just going to call this my cart, I'm going to call this properties to watch. Because I find this property very interesting and I want to know what happens to it over time. I can now create a cart and save this property in a cart. And now there's one property in that cart. Or what I will most likely do is I will create a cart that's tied to a customer. Let's give some examples of that. Maybe I have a listing and I do my CMA and I recommend a list price to my seller and we list the property. But you know what? There are a bunch of active listings in the same area, very similar to my seller's property. And after I do my CMA, after we come up with the initial price, I want to track what happens to those active listings. Well, I can use a cart to do that. So I'm going to check off some properties. Let me come back into another search. I am going to check off maybe this active listing and this pending listing that's similar to my subject property. I am going to add those into a cart. This time, I am going to tie the cart to my seller. In this case, it is for my contact, Sammy Seller. And I'm going to name this cart Comps for Listing. Comps for Sammy Seller's listing. And this way, whenever I go in this cart in the future, I can see for this active and pending listing that we used in our initial analysis, what happened? What did this pending listing actually sell for? Right now, we don't know. All we knew was that it was $499,000 before it went under contract. But did it sell for more than that, less than that? For this active listing, is the price going to be dropped? Is this going to expire? Is this going to go pending? Is this going to sell? So now I have a cart where I can save that. But it gets even better, because guess what? After Sammy Seller sells this home that I have listed for him, he then wants to buy a new home. And he's not going to really be able to do anything with that. He's not going to be able to start seeing new homes or making offers or putting those under contract until his current home's under contract. So in that case, maybe I want to put potential properties for him to buy in a cart. So I run another search. These are potential properties that Sammy Seller might want to see or buy, but he wants to wait until his current home has a contract. I'm going to create another cart for his potential purchases. So now I just created two carts for the same contact. I am saving listings. I'm not saving criteria. I am saving specific listings for me to view later. Now, under my homepage in Matrix, I have a My Carts widget. In the My Carts widget, all of my carts that have listings show up. So here's Sammy Seller's potential purchases. And at any time, I can pull this cart and see what's going on with these listings. They will always show up in the most up-to-date status, the most up-to-date price, the most up-to-date information. Same thing. Oh, it's been a while. Sammy Seller's home still hasn't sold. Let's see what these two properties are doing. Are these under contract yet? Are these pending yet? Have there been any price decreases? Additionally, and this is something new, under the My Matrix tab, there's now a My Carts area. Under My Matrix and My Carts, I can manage all of my carts from here. I can edit the settings of a cart. The settings pretty much allow you to rename your cart. I can go into the results of a cart. The comps for listing for Sammy Seller, I can view those results from the my matrix, my carts area. But also, if I ever need to remove a listing from a cart, I can check off the listings I want to remove, come to the carts menu within a cart, and I can remove the checked listings. Oh, and one more thing. So if I come into Sammy Seller's cart and I check off these 2 listings, I can also move these listings to another cart. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove these checked listings. So that's a big change with carts. But along with discussing the change, I just want to spend that time. I do feel carts are very much misused. It can be a little confusing. I know it took me a while to kind of grasp the difference between saving a search and saving a listing in a cart. The whole idea with a cart is that you are just saving listings. You're saving properties to view later and to see the status later, to see the price, to see any updates later. You are not sharing these out yet. These are not being sent to your customer yet. You have to manually email those for it to be shared with your customer. But it's just like an electronic file folder. You are simply filing properties for you to view later. So let's see, a few questions that came up that I just want to address while we are going through this. First of all, when we were talking about the speed bar, that the last slide, the second enhancement that we shared, when you enter listings into the speed bar in Matrix, you have the option of including a comma or not including a comma. I am more than welcome to put a comma in between each listing ID. I don't have to. So that was one question that came up. The other question is if this webinar is going to be recorded, and the answer to that is yes, we are recording this webinar and we will be sharing this out. Then we had a question that came through, where do we find a saved search? So if you're not using a cart, if instead you are in fact using saved searches, let me pull Matrix back up. My Matrix, Save Searches, My Matrix Auto Emails. This is a good time to review this. So pretty much anything in Matrix that's tied to you, that's tied to your account, that may need to be edited later, you are likely to be able to find it under the My Matrix tab. Under the My Matrix tab, I can go into my contact records. I can edit my contacts. I can delete contacts. I can go into my auto emails. I can edit or delete auto emails. I can go into my saved searches. I can edit or delete my saved searches. My carts, my CMAs, my listings. So the My Matrix tab is kind of that magic area where you can find a lot of good stuff. Can we like or unlike items in the cart? Well, you can't. It's not necessarily liking, because remember the favorite feature, that's something that your customers do when you email your customer a listing. But within the cart, what I am able to do, let me come back into My Matrix and my carts. I am able to go into the results of a cart, and I can go to the carts menu within the cart. I can remove an item from a cart. But what I would have to do in this case, I might want to email this item now to my customer, and once it goes to my customer, then they're able to use the features such as favoriting, leaving notes, things like that. Let's see. Can we add more listings to the cart after the fact? Absolutely. So once I have a cart created, if I run an additional search in the future, if I need to add more items to that cart, these carts are available now. When I go to the carts menu in the future, all my existing carts are here. I can always add a new item to that cart later. Let's see, we also got a question on if we can text properties out from a cart. Currently, that functionality does not exist. The only texting option is through a tool called List Track. You're able to text. You can actually have people text in the code to get information about your listing. But Matrix cannot, while you can text a link, so if you have a link to a listing, if you have a link from a customer portal, you can text that, but there's not a direct text feature from this menu where I can just send something out as a text automatically. Right now I can email something out automatically, but to text I would have to manually put in some sort of a link. So let's see, let's talk about some other changes. Let's go back into the presentation. So another thing that's changing, When you narrow a search, when you limit your search down to only checked properties, you can now go back into the Criteria tab to edit the criteria. So let's explore what that means. So I pointed this out a little earlier today, but I just want to review this again. I'm going to pull a bigger search. Oh, notice what I'm doing here. I'm keeping on going to this Recent Searches pull-down menu. Just an FYI, you can pull the last 50 searches that you've run in the past 7 days under your Recent Searches up here. Now, this is not the same thing as a save search. I have not saved any of these searches necessarily. I have to save these searches separately if I want to be able to run these anytime in the future. But I do have the last 50 searches that I have launched in the past 7 days. But in this case, I have 23 results in my search. I'm going to check off a few of these, maybe 5 of these, and I'm only interested in these 5 properties that I checked off. If I go to the Refine menu, I can show only those selected properties. Refine, Show Selected. And now my search has been narrowed to only those selected properties. So in the past, whenever you would do this, you would have lost your Criteria tab. You would no longer have the ability to refine the criteria of the search. Change the price range, change the number of bedrooms you're looking for, whatever that might be. But now you have that ability. So I can come into here in the future. I can change the price range. But the problem with doing that, if I do refine the search after I did the Show Selected, now the new results will be whatever listings match the new criteria. It's going to pretty much override the listings that I said that I want to see selected. So yes, now when I have a search, I can check off listings, come to the Refine menu and say Show Selected. But if I were to go into this Criteria tab, even though I can now edit this criteria. If I did edit the criteria, change from 3 bedrooms to 3 more bedrooms, it's going to undo my narrowed search. So that's another minor change that has occurred as of yesterday. Let's see. Let's now go into some other changes. Okay, here's one. Printing notes. Now when you print listings, you have the ability to print any notes for that listing. But let's do a little bit of backstory here. Let's talk a little bit about what this means. So currently, when I check off listings and I email, come to the Actions menu, I email listings to my customer. Or if I set up an auto email where my customer receives emails whenever there's a new listing that matches his or her criteria. The customer is going to receive in the email a link to a customer portal. So here's a sample email I sent out to my customer, Billy Buyer, earlier today. And Billy Buyer receives whatever message I typed into the email. For auto emails, it's an automatically generated message that we give you. For direct emails, you type in your message. But then they get a link to a portal site. And Billy Buyer clicks this portal link. And now he or she can view the listings I sent. They can favorite properties, click this heart icon, favorite properties, mark properties possibility. They can go into a customer-friendly view of the listing and can leave notes, can type in notes. And Billy Buyer has already left me some notes on this listing. Billy Buyer was asking about HOA fees, and I responded. So through the customer portal, when you email your customers, not only can your customer favorite properties, mark properties, possibilities, or discard properties, but within the listing, they can also leave you notes. But there's a few things here that I just want to kind of use the opportunity to review. When you go back into Matrix, you want to make sure that you're responding to these notes. You want to make sure that when your customer favorites a property that you know about it. And there's a few ways to do this. You have a widget on your homepage. It's called Recent Portal Visitors, where you can see, oh, Betty Buyer, she was in her portal yesterday. She marked a property as a possibility. She left a note. Billy Buyer was in his portal at 7:45 this morning and left a note. Under your contacts menu, you can see all of your customers, My Matrix and Contacts, last time they visited their portal, the properties they favorited, the properties they marked as a possibility, the notes they left you. You can see this all from here. Under My Matrix and Settings, this is very important. This is something that changed last year. So if you have not done this yet, please take note of this. So My Matrix and Settings, you have an area called Portal Notification Settings, where I can say, well, whenever my customer visits their portal, saves a favorite, removes a favorite, or saves a possibility, adds a note, I want to be emailed or texted or just sent a daily email summary. So there are multiple ways to track activity with your customers leaving you notes, with your customers favoriting properties, recent portal visitors, My Matrix and contacts, but also under the settings under the My Matrix tab, you have an area for portal notification settings. But with this recent change, what this is doing, so now I can go into, see that Billy Buyer left me a note this morning. I can click on this note. So it's for this listing in Newport Richey. Maybe now I want to go and print this listing. I'm going to check this listing off and print it. I now have the ability to print any notes that were exchanged back and forth between me and my customer. Now this is only available on the single line displays and on the broker displays. So for example, if I were trying to print a customer display for this listing, then it's not going to show up with any notes. It's not available in every display. So right now when I said customer synopsis, the print notes is grayed out. If I switch to a broker display, the print notes is available. And when I go to print this listing, let's just preview this. Now all the notes are showing up on top of the listing. So that is the new print notes feature. It's only available on certain displays, but it does help if you are leaving notes back and forth with your customer to be able to see all of this. So let's see, before we move on, we had a question, can we delete notes? Well, yes, no, kind of. In order to delete notes, because these are things that are left back and forth between your customers, it gets a little more complicated. When I go into Matrix, if I were to go into my contacts, I can go to any of my contacts records and I can open their portal site. And I can go into the properties that were sent back and forth, the messages sent back and forth. And I can see if any notes were left. But it does not give me the ability to delete notes from here. Now, with that being said, I can be in a portal on behalf of my customer. So if a customer verbally tells me, oh, this is no longer a favorite, I can unfavorite properties. But once a note is added, because remember, the whole idea with notes is your customer's communicating with you. Once a note's added, the note is in there. Let me see if there's any other questions that came through. It looks like most of these have been answered. How do we see notes? As we mentioned before, there's a few ways to see the notes that were left to you. You can access recent notes under recent portal visitors. Under the My Matrix contact menu, you can see all notes that customer has ever left to you. So I can now go into and see all of the notes from any of my customers. So let's move on to some other changes that have occurred. Let's see, the next one talks about the customer portal view. So this is a good transition. So we just kind of talked about the customer portal. When I email my buyer, or when I email a customer, or even if I send an email to myself, a record I created for myself, what that person receives in their email is a link to a portal. So what this view is talking about, if your customer receives that email on a mobile device, and most of our customers probably are using a mobile device now, how is the default view set on a mobile device? In the past, it was always going to be a map view. Your customer opens their portal site and they see a map with a pin for all the listings that you emailed. Now, the default view on a mobile device is a list view. However, for a tablet with a larger screen, it might still be the map view. But when your customer logs into their portal from their mobile device, if they were to change their view, if they were to change the the list view back to map view or to a different view or to a gallery view, that new view they select would be the default view moving forward. So as a recap, what this is talking about, what this enhancement did, when a customer opens their portal on a mobile device, the default view on that device is now a list view and not a map view, but it can be changed. The view can be changed. Whatever view is then selected becomes the default view moving forward. Okay, let's see. The next change, the next enhancement has to do with the news widget. I'm going to go into a little soapbox about this because this is so important. When we have new items to share with you, maybe it's an enhancement such as these enhancements from yesterday. Maybe it's a new product we're offering you. Maybe it's a new rule. It's a survey that we're trying to get feedback from you. We usually set a news item to appear in Matrix. So when you first log into Matrix, the news item is going to pop up for the first time. And when it does, you have the ability to say things like, well, the first time it pops up, I've read this, or read later. And then after you say that, after you say either I've read this or read later, it goes into this news widget up here. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the new things, the new features. First of all, in the past, you were able to navigate away from the screen whenever there was a pop-up news item. You can just click away somewhere else on the screen, it will disappear. Now it actually forces a choice, I've read this or read later. I do understand that sometimes you're under the gun. You have someone who is on the phone with you, they need information right away. You don't have time to read that news item right there, so you do see read later. I do encourage you, though, to at some point in time to go back and read that because we do share some very important updates with you through the Matrix News widget. And if you skip through that, if you just close out of it and not read it, you might be missing some really valuable information on enhancements, on new products, on lots of other things. Because of that, we now give you the ability to print the news item. Maybe it is one of those cases where, you know what, I'm really busy right now. I have this customer who's coming to meet with me in 5 minutes. I do not have time to read this item right now, but I'm going to print it either on paper or as a PDF, and I'm going to read it later. I want to make sure that I have this. I want to make sure that I save this. So you now have the ability to print news. On the news widget on your Matrix homepage, there's going to be up and down arrows now. If there are multiple news items, you can navigate between those items. And the news widget is now responsive if you are logging into Matrix from a mobile device. So that is a change with the news widget. Let's see, for driving directions, right now, I showed you this a little earlier today. When you run a search, you currently have the ability to, let me just go into one of my searches, to run driving directions to and between listings under the Actions menu for any search that you run. So this has always been here. What is new, though, is that now, under the My Listings widget on your Matrix homepage, if you're going to pull up all of your active listings, you can now run driving directions to and between your active listings under the My Listings widget on the Matrix homepage. You can also access driving directions from the Concierge approval screen. If you use auto emails in concierge mode, when you have that concierge widget show up in Matrix for you to approve listings, you can now get driving directions from the concierge approval screen as well. Let's see, the final change is going to be about adding photos to a listing. So currently, when you enter a listing into Matrix, for those of you who do enter your own listings, when you go to add photos the first time, there's the certification statement saying that pretty much you own the images, that you understand the rules about images in the MLS. And the first time you enter a listing, you have to click, you read the certification statement before you upload the photos. But now there's actually a place where you certify. And if ever you add new photos, so say if I added 5 photos in initially and I go back to add a 6th photo later, as in this case, or I had 20 photos initially and I added 10 more later, if I go into edit a listing later after I activate it and I add new photos, that statement and the certification button will then show up every time you add photos to your listing in the future. So those are the main changes. We had 9 major changes: reordering search results, the speed bar, the new feature for carts, being able to print listing notes, a few changes to displays and views, and where you can do driving directions. But we had some extra questions come through that I do want to address. So one question that came through, I was mentioning the concierge screen and about how you can now get driving directions in concierge mode. And some people were asking, wait a minute, what's that? What's concierge and how do I do that? So basically, if I were to send out an automatic email, maybe I want to save this criteria. I come to my save screen. I want to do an auto email where not only do I save this criteria, that I'm emailing out these initial results to my customer, but also any future results that hit the market. When I do an auto email, there's an option for concierge mode. When I set up an auto email in concierge mode, the email schedule on when my customers are going to receive updates disappears. I become the schedule. Basically, what ends up happening is that whenever a new listing hits the market that matches my customer's criteria, it gets emailed to me first, and I have to either approve or reject it. When you have listings that are awaiting your approval in concierge mode, a concierge widget is going to show up on your home screen. Now, if you don't use concierge mode, if you don't have any emails in concierge mode, this won't be here. But if you are using concierge mode, if you do have auto emails in concierge mode, this widget will show up on your home page. And now, when there are listings awaiting your approval, the driving directions will be available through there. So we had another question that came through. This is kind of unrelated, but I do want to address it. It talks about HomeSnap. HomeSnap is one of the mobile apps that we give you. So on your main login page, you have all the tools the MLS gives you. This is just a really innovative new mobile app that we're offering you, or new to us. It's been around for several years. But basically, you're able to download the app on your phone. You can go around. You can take a picture of a home, of a property, anywhere in the nation, really. And based on the GPS coordinates of your phone and your camera, it's going to pull the nearest listing. If the property is listed, it pulls up the listing information. If it's not listed, it pulls up public records information. Plus, it links you to similar listings. HomeSnap can also be shared with a customer. You can share a branded version of the app with your customer, and they can do their own searching. And the question became through HomeSnap, does HomeSnap talk to Matrix? And it does not. HomeSnap is a completely separate system. It is not integrated with your Matrix contacts. Let's see, some other questions that came through that I want to address. Let me see. Can you resend an invite to the customer portal? Absolutely. So when I send especially an auto email to my customer. Let me think my link expired. Let me come back into Matrix. When I send an auto email to my customer and they never click on that portal link, they never click to view the initial listings, and as a result, they are not receiving any updates from me, I get an email after 3 days. After 3 days, your customer never clicked on this initial email to view the listings you sent, and they're not receiving any updates from you. So if I come back to My Matrix, Auto Emails, whenever I see this open white circle, this means the customer has yet to opt in to this auto email. They have yet to go into the initial email. And I then can go into here. I have the option to resend the welcome message. So My Matrix, Auto Emails. Here are all my auto emails. If I see a green check mark, we're good. That means that the customer is actually going through their portal. If I see the open circle, it means they have not gone through their portal initially. I can resend the welcome message. Let me see what else we have. I just went through My Matrix and I did not see the portal notification settings. You have to go to My Matrix settings, and then you have the portal notification settings. We had another question come through. So I mentioned with the HomeSnap app, that HomeSnap, that mobile app, once again, if you have not downloaded this yet, I do encourage you to check it out. That is not integrated with Matrix and your Matrix contacts. The My MLS mobile app, the other mobile app we give you, is under the My MLS mobile app. And actually, this is a really good question. I forgot to mention this. if you download the My MLS mobile app on your phone and you log in as an agent, you can access all your Matrix contacts. You can access the cart of each of your Matrix contacts. So we were talking about carts earlier today, how we can save listings in carts. Well, I can access those through this mobile app. And also you can see all of your customers' favorite properties from their portal. Let's see, what else do we have? Let's see. Okay, so we have a few more questions that came through. Let me take these one at a time. So one question is about, let's see. I think I already answered the one about notifications. I answered the one about notification settings, about changing the welcome message in your portal. So there's a few things about that. So number one, if I go into a search, if I launch an auto email for that search, I can change both the welcome message here that we give you and the recurring message. I can either change it just for this one email, or I can come to this cog icon down here, the settings icon. I can type something new in here and set that as my new default message. In terms of changing the message within the customer portal, there's actually going to be, let me come into here within the portal, there is a My Agent tab where there's a welcome message that you can set up along with a slideshow, your listings, your photo, all that good stuff. All of those items are done under My Matrix, My Information. My Matrix, My Information. There is a portal profile where you can edit all of those items, the greeting, your photo, your slideshow. So that's how you would do that. Same thing, how do you add a photo to the signature of your email? That's also done under My Matrix, My Information. So in that case, under the email signature, I can set up my email signature. To add a photo is a little complicated. You click on this image icon. So once again, My Matrix, My Information. You can set up your email signature. When you click on this image icon, you either have to give the URL to an image hosted on another website, or if you say select image, you can link to whatever image you uploaded under your CMA cover sheet. This is very important because I know many of you might have been with us through the Matrix transition, or you might have joined a few years ago and you got started and you never got all this stuff set up. If you have not had a chance yet to go under My Matrix, My Information, and just go through tab by tab to make sure all your stuff is correct in here and how you want it to look, the header for your portal and for when you print listings, your CMA cover sheet, your email signature, I do encourage you to do so. So My Matrix, My Information, all of these items are available, but go through tab by tab, add a photo to your CMA cover sheet, and then you can link to that same photo in your email signature. Okay, we have a few questions about reverse prospecting. So let me just address that briefly. So reverse prospecting is a feature. We saw that when we went to set up an auto email, enable reverse prospecting. Let me just give you an example of what that looks like. Let me log into an agent account with listings. So when you go into your listings, you can check off a listing. So on your homepage in Matrix, you have this My Listings area. Go into your active listings. You can check off a listing and you can say reverse prospect. And this is showing you all of the agents out there who emailed out your listing, all of the agents who shared your listing with a customer. And you can actually click on their names to send those agents an email. Hey, I see that you have a customer who you sent my listing to. I'm dropping the price, or I'm having an open house this weekend, or they just put a new roof on the property. So I can follow up on any of these. The count shows you for each of these agents how many total properties they email that customer. So Christy Mitchell over here, she emailed out this listing along with 15 total listings to her customer. So reverse prospecting, that's going to be under the My Listings widget. When you go into your listings, check off a listing, say reverse prospect, you can see all of the agents who emailed out your listing. And unfortunately, with reverse prospecting, you cannot do a mass email. You cannot export that. It really is going to be, you have to email them once at a time. And the reason for that, the way how Matrix is set up, this is not set up to be a CRM. This is not set up to be a mass email system. This is meant for one-on-one communication with your customers. And in order to be whitelisted by most of the email service providers, to not go into spam for all the major email systems, we have to have a lot of these protection mechanisms in place where you can't do mass emails. Let's see what else. And then we got another question about your header and footer. All that stuff is done under My Matrix, My Information. Under the header and footer, you can choose, sorry, let's switch back to my account, My Matrix. When you select a header, and you have all sorts of banners that you can select over here, all sorts of different images that are available. But once I select it, if I want to customize the colors, I have the ability to customize the color scheme over here. And let's see. So one question came through, when you send out an auto email. So when you send out search results as an auto email, not as a one-time email, what ends up happening, there is an opt-out where your customer could unsubscribe. I strongly encourage you, when you are setting this up, when you are consulting with your customer, when you're trying to get their criteria, what they need in their search, go over with them what the emails look like. Share with them. You're going to receive these emails from me on a regular basis, and if for whatever reason you're receiving too many emails from me, let me know, and I can change the settings. And find out how often they want to hear from you. Do they want to hear from you every day? Do they want to hear from you once a week? Do they want to hear from you as soon as something hits the market? So those are all questions you want to ask. Those are all things you want to address. When your customer unsubscribes, it is very hard to get them back in. They actually have to send an email to opt back in to get future emails from you. Because the minute they click unsubscribe, due to spam laws and due to things like that, they're unsubscribed. You can't send a future email to them through Matrix, or you can't set up a future auto email until they opt back in. And if any of the other trainers on the call, if you have that URL that you can put into the Q&A for that question, that'll be awesome. I don't remember what the exact URL, I'm sorry, what the exact email address is to come back in. Let's see. Someone did ask me if I can show the concierge again. Once again, when you are using concierge mode, only after you have an auto email set up in concierge mode, you then have a concierge widget show up again on your home screen. So it's just going to be on your main screen in Matrix if you are using concierge mode. All right. And that is opt-in. I think I just saw that up here. Someone just posted that, opt-in.mfr@matrixemailer.com. So that is going to be, and I'll put that on the screen. This is the email address to opt back in if your customer opts out an auto email and they want to be back in. I'm getting a few questions about people who came in late, who missed some of the initial enhancements. We are going to have another webinar at 11:30 and another one at 1:30. We also are going to have this recorded, so you would by all means, we're going to send out this video recording tomorrow to everyone who attended, so you would be able to watch the video if you missed any portion of the webinar today. It is being recorded, so you will be able to go back and watch the video. Okay, let's see. Let me. We got the question, why can't we email disclosures and floor plans and things like that directly from the attachments without downloading it first? That is an enhancement request that has been sent through in the past. So who knows? Ideally, we will have that. That might be available in the future, but there's no immediate plans yet. Right now, for any attachments to a listing, you have to download it first and then attach it to an email. We also had the question, where do we send ideas for future enhancements? I'm sorry, I think I got logged out of Matrix. Let me try to log back in. On your home page in Matrix, under the external links, there is a link for suggestions. Let's see. So anyways, thank you all for joining us this morning as we start to wrap this up. So along with being able to show you these enhancements, I love that we were able to do some open Q&A here. There's so many things, as you all have noticed, real estate is a fast-moving industry, especially when it comes to real estate technology. And because all of the tools that our customers have access to change so rapidly, because all of these companies that are coming up with tools that maybe don't even require a real estate agent to use because they have a lot of money invested into there. Here at the MLS, we are constantly looking to innovate. We are constantly looking to improve our tools and our products. And sometimes because these changes occur fast and furious, generally speaking, there's an update to Matrix once a quarter, so 4 times a year. It's easy to miss some things. It's easy to miss the memo when something does change. That's why I'm so happy all of you are here today. I'm so happy that all of you took the time to join this webinar. Please, 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 whenever you see a news, I'm sorry, I'm logged out of Matrix right now, but whenever you see a news item shared, whenever you see those news pop-ups, be sure to read that because we do share with you items there. We do share with you a lot of important updates. But it's sometimes nice just to be able to have some time to ask questions, for me to be able to share some of the backstory, for me to maybe be able to point out some things that changed last year that where it can be very easy to have missed the news item. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Once again, we are going to record this webinar. We did the recording. We're going to email this out to everyone. There's also, if you go back on your homepage in Matrix under the News and Alerts widget, we have a document showing you all these recent changes along with the notes from this change. We are going to stick around. We'll answer the remaining questions that came through. But for the rest of you, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you on future webinars.